Welcome to the iNETrepreneur radio show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNETrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network, we're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for being with us on the show today. I have three wonderful guests, and I am going to do my best not to drone on too long to start this show, because I'm sure with my guests, we will just be taking it over the airwaves today. But just a few reminders, sometimes I don't get to. We have some special events coming up on Wednesday, February 7th from 4 to 6 p.m. We have the Art of Connection launch party for the book. It's from 4 to 6 p.m. Get details by going to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. The following Wednesday, we have another event coming up for Furnishing Dignity. It's called our Give Back event. Same calendar, 1 week later from 11:30 to 1. We're going to be at Union Tap and Grill in beautiful Gilbert, Arizona, to be giving back to the community with our friends over at Union Tap and Grill and the Hub. And lastly, we have our next big event coming up for the first one of the year. It's called our Omni channel networking event. And that is coming up on March 31st at 9 a.m. It's virtual. Be there sharp. Make sure, let's make some connections. Get heard, get seen. Let's have some fun. You know, the topic of this show this week is the art of connection legacy. And I really thought about legacy quite a bit in my own life. You know, and sometimes when I think about legacy, one of the first words that comes to mind is, am I living the mission for my life? Am I living in such a way when that dash goes by, because I have a born on date and then I have a date at the other end, you know, what does that dash look like in between? How many people did I make their lives better? You know, what did I do as a father, as a husband, as a son? You know, how did I help the community? You know, did I do it in such a way that I served myself, or did I serve others? Or really, is it a little bit of both? You know, what type of balance did I have? You know, and I also look at myself as, you know, how have I lived in my purpose? You know, I've always said, you know, in my life, I've really tried to be a servant. I've been on a couple of church missions. I served the United States Marine Corps. Most recently, I was the director of the East Valley with PetSmart, and we raised over $25,000, you know, 5,000 toys for foster kids here locally. And that fills my heart. You know, I do it because I love it, you know, but I also do it because it's another way to fulfill my own mission. And that is to bring more light really to the earth than what was there before. You know, and so I do that in business as well. And I just do that with this other little thing that came out. And that was this Art of Connection book. And quite frankly, it was not really meant to be a book that I thought was going to go, you know, nationally and then internationally. It was just something where I thought I'd have a message. You know, there was something to say, and it would be words of inspiration, hope, and support for other entrepreneurs. But today I have three of the contributing authors that are in the book, and I'm really excited to, you know, just talk with them and let them share some of their visions of legacy and what they talked about in the book. And I'm really excited about having our first guest today. And our first guest is Natalie Mcqueen. Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Hi, Robert. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I always love it. We were talking even before the show, the hair and everything. I think Jonathan was saying like, "Rawr," you know, we got the lion mane going. I mean, what beautiful hair. We love this on the show. And
thank you.
So I really have you on the show first, and mainly because you have something in the gifts of legacy that I think is really phenomenal. Because many times we talk about legacy, and I had a conversation with my son, Troy Jones. He's going to be 15 years old. And he told me, he's like, Dad, you adults are so funny. When you talk about legacy, you always talk about stuff, and usually it's money and homes. And he's like, I think in my generation, our legacy is going to be about knowledge and passing on skills so we can,
Totally.
do the things to further our generation. And I thought about that, and I thought, that's pretty apt with that statement he had. And here he is. It's like, he must be listening to all of us. I don't know. I hope he is, because yeah, they do. So Natalie, tell me a little bit about your background. I mean, you're not even from the States, and somehow you came down to Phoenix, Arizona. Tell us a little bit about this migration, so to speak.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in Ontario, Northern Ontario, that is buried in snow right now. And my husband and I moved to Michigan for pharmacy school. And then they gave us 5 places to live. And we said, let's go to Arizona. We've never lived without snow. Let's try it. And we fell in love with the desert. No one really likes 120 degrees.
Right.
But no one likes 40 below either.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm always about like this. My grandma always told me when she moved here from Kansas, she said, it's so much easier shoveling sunshine than it is snow.
yes. And it's easier to enjoy 120 with a margarita in the pool. It's hard to enjoy minus 40, but we definitely love Arizona, but we stay in touch and we go back to visit Canada as much as we can.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here. But you have kind of a unique background. You've done a lot of different things, and one of the things that really stands out in your bio, because you are a certified mind mastery coach, and you've helped publish books. You're an author yourself. You help people get marketed out there, and you do a great job of that. But another thing that a lot of people don't know is you also worked kind of in the financial background, which seems so like here we have this world of Natalie, which seems all about PR and promotion and marketing, and all of a sudden financial. So, tell us a little bit about your financial background.
Yeah, well, I was in marketing and sales, and then I had a contact, and they said, oh my gosh, you're so great with people. Why don't you come and apply for this job? And I really didn't know much about it. And I looked into it and I thought, you know what, that may be a whole different, experience. And it was. I loved it. I worked for Morgan Stanley Smith Barney for years and got to know the clients. And I was in the operations department, and there was another Canadian that she was over me, and we got along great and just had a lot of fun. It was a different than entrepreneurship for sure, when you're getting audited twice a year. but what if everything was, your checks and balances were good, you were good to go. But it was something I really don't regret doing. I loved it at the time. And then my husband ended up getting a job or a transfer in South Carolina. So I had a chance to do something different. So that was the end of the financial career.
Right. Yeah. And aren't we all lucky in this matter that you did, because you were able to light up in other areas with what I would call your superpowers. And Natalie, I have the benefit of really knowing you, and we've had some really great conversations. And it's really interesting because I hear a lot of people, and they talk, a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, people that you might see maybe at a sporting event. And
Right.
one of the things I can actually say with my conversations with you is, you're really giving of thought. And I really think it's very interesting when my son Troy talked about, leaving legacy and talking about thought as a legacy. you really put your energies where your thoughts are, and you go deeper than that because you also have a certain mindset and then heart set, which has led you to this other really fascinating project, which actually has turned into a business, and that's called the Gifts of Legacy. And
Yes.
I want you to talk a little bit about how Gifts of Legacy came about, because I think it kind of sets a tone for the show, that we should all at one time or another, especially as we get older, should start thinking about what is our legacy and what does it look like, and what is our purpose, and how are we going to illuminate others. Tell us a little bit about your story with Gifts of Legacy.
Sure, sure. Well, it's been a long time coming. Going back into the scrapbook years, right? And thinking about, oh, I've got to make these amazing scrapbooks so my kids will see how how awesome their mom is that kept up on everything. But life happens and we don't. We get partially things
Right.
down and stories. What I realized is even when your children look through their baby books, they don't know the essence of that picture. So they may look at that picture and it was them in the park with some ducks. They don't know the behind the scenes. They don't know how mom was feeling that day. They don't know how special that time might have been. Then about 4 years ago, on vacation in Cuba, I ended up having a near-death experience. And that was life-changing for me, because what I realized is, wow, we don't know, like you said in the intro, we don't know when our last day on this earth is. And have we touched the people that we want to touch? Do we reach out on a daily basis and let those people in our lives know we're thinking about them? Or it can be so simple as a quick text or a phone call, and just keep the people that, are your circle of, the people that will always be in your life.
Well, and I really want to touch really deeper with what you're saying, because it's one thing to read the words or to look at the pictures, but it's another thing to bring in the senses.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, as I can look at a picture, and but am I feeling it? Like, have I felt the wind go across my cheek? Did I smell the roses in the distance? Did I have a tear of sentiment? And
Right.
I think what you're doing is you're creating something to where, even though I may have these memories and I can store them, you're really helping people convey just more than just looking at images and maybe hearing sounds. You want to convey the essence, as a legacy that's passed down from one generation to another.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is our family traditions. We've all grown up different. We've all had different experiences. And, if you just pull a key person like a mom or a dad out of a family, that person was a big part of making that, say, holiday tradition or holiday time special. And it could be that special cookie recipe from grandma. If
Yeah.
you pull grandma out of the equation, do we have that recipe somewhere so we can carry on the traditions and celebrate? So after my near-death experience, I really thought, how many words of wisdom, how many just loving words, and I'm so proud of you words, would have my daughters have not heard? And that's where I was thinking over and over, this has to change, because you hear these stories of, a mom getting cancer and not being able to leave all her words.
And I've found it's becoming even more important too. The soft moments of life for many of us, they're further and farther between.
Yes.
But what I love is I have a quote from the book that you have in the Art of Connection, which is coming out on the 17th of this month with our launch party. We're really excited about, and it says, your gift of legacy is the culmination of stories, life lessons, and experience shared with loved ones to light the way for future generations. Bring peace to their hearts as they remember you. Inspire them to create their own legacy while creating a ripple effect that will impact the world. And you say a lot in that quote. And
Yeah.
it really does amaze me, because they say, I'm just one person. What can I do? And I'm like, my goodness, if, there would be no Albert Einstein, there would be no Gandhi, there would be no Nelson Mandela, there would be no, for some people, Elon Musk. These are but one people.
Yeah.
One person can start anything.
Yep.
And, what touched you enough to be a part of the book, The Art of Connection, Natalie?
Well, let me say one other thing.
Okay. Yes.
Well, it's so important, because so many people think, oh, I have to be this big CEO to create a legacy or something like that. And that's why I want the everyday person to realize that, my grandma never finished high school, but the words of wisdom that I've got from her over the years has completely transformed my life and the way I see her. And so that's where I feel like every person has to realize that their life is worth recording. And the one thing you may say can transform someone else's life and make a ripple impact on the world if they carry your message forward and do something with it. So,
and one thing I've learned is we can't be everywhere at once.
Right.
And that's important to know too. I know with my grandmother, my mom's mom, we were going to start memorializing her life as she came from Mexico up here, and she established herself in the United States. And my mom thought she had her phone on record, and she actually didn't. And so,
no.
and so I was fortunate enough to have the history, because I was with my mom and my grandmother. She passed away at, God bless her soul, at 96 years old.
Nice.
But I was able to hear those words, and yes, they're embedded in my memory,
Right.
but I don't have those words to convey to others,
Right.
But I definitely want to promote the Art of Connection book, and you became a part of it. What were some of the reasons that you were like, I want to be a part of this book and this movement?
Yeah, well, one thing, you and Sean are amazing people, and I knew anything that you would put together would be done right and really
Thank you.
Professional. And so that was a big part. But then the other thing is, it's such a powerful thing when authors come together and share their gifts. And that's where I feel like everyone has gifts to share. We can learn from each other. And what a great way when you pool all those gifts together and then get it out to the world. So I love that.
And I agree, because there was so much that I had learned as well when it came to the book. And really some of the things were, each page we were limited to about 400 words, but it is amazing how deep some of the thoughts I saw that went into the book from our authors. And it makes you stop back and think. I think about my mortality. I think about, am I living in my greatness? I think about let me reevaluate my purpose. It really is inspirational. Exactly. To get so many thoughts. And you and I both know this was just going to be something with a bunch of Arizonans, and all of a sudden it ended up, we had Argentina represented, England, Ireland, Australia, India, and it made me think that we are so, people, we all have this energy and radiance, and we resonate with certain things. And I think about that with you, and I also think about that with all the other authors in the book. But this time goes by so quick. I want people to know how to get in touch with you. I have
Sure.
your banner scrolling across the screen, but what
Okay.
other ways can people find you as well, Natalie?
On Facebook, social media, Gifts of Legacy on Facebook. And if they want to know more about how to create and how to really live life on purpose, create your legacy and think about what you want to be remembered for, then email me at giftsoflegacy@gmail.com and we'll set up a time to talk.
Well, I think that you have something that's very outstanding, and really it reminds me of when I was in college, and I remember when the video oh God, I'm dating myself, but oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm saying this. Oh my goodness. But I remember when the video camera came out, and
Yeah.
I remember that he was there was a salesperson talking to the professor, and they said, you need to have this video camera, but they didn't sell it. They didn't put it from the heart in the right way. And he says, someday, he says, if he would have just told me someday that I could capture my grandkids' moments and have them for the rest of my life, I would have bought that video camera instantly. And he said, unfortunately, it was never sold in such a way that this was not the selling of it. It was actually a service to, bring his legacy into future generations in his own family. So Natalie, Thank you so much for being here today. You are a rock star. Thank you for being in the book. Thank you for being a part of the iNETrepreneur community.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. You're great. Thank you.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Well, thank you again, Natalie, for being on the show. I think it's amazing what you do, and we're just going to have another show just to really show what Gifts of Legacy looks like, to kind of so people can see it in their hands. My next guest is probably the most unique, financially inclined, niche industry person that I have ever met. And every time I think financial, he's created a whole different mindset for me. And I really appreciate our next guest who's coming on to the show. His name is Jonathan Bengel, and I am so excited, Jonathan, for you to be on the show today. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Robert. It's been a pleasure. It is a pleasure. I've been a pleasure, as in I've been in the backdrop listening to what you guys were chit-chatting about. So, and it's also a pleasure just to be here with you.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here as well. And I have to admit, the first time we met in person at a place called Trade Source. And little did I know that I would see the glow stick of financialness in a way that I have never seen before. And it really made me think about, we have lived. Really, I mean, think about this. We have really labeled the financial industry not in a way to comfort people, but we've really created the financial industry in a way to create fear in people. And I really feel like, I look around me, Jonathan, and so much of what I see that you do is you help take this fear out of a person's lives. The fear is what's keeping them from their success, from their love. It keeps them from their pursuits. And what you do is you say, let's just retrain the heart, let's retrain the mind, and let's give people something to love. And, quite frankly, it's their pocketbook.
I mean, who doesn't love money? I mean, I certainly do. Especially because I didn't come from it, right? I mean, I was giving a talk actually at an iNETrepreneur network meeting today. I was giving a talk. And I talked about how I came from generational poverty, right? So when I talk about that, I talk about like my own mother's forced out of school at the age of 13 so that she could pick cotton, corn, and sugarcane, and then would escape that environment to give birth to me, and then have, my father, Thomas Bengel, murdered, 5 months after my birth, and my mother having to deal with that, and then finding herself in complete turmoil. So, money, we want it. especially when you don't have it. And what I can tell you is that the IRS doesn't want your money if you're a business owner. And I know that because I'm a business profit coach, tax coach, teacher extraordinaire, an IRS enrolled agent, a bachelor's degree in business accounting, for goodness sake. So if there's something I know about tax, I know it.
Yeah, and you know, we really do have similar backgrounds with our family and what they endured really to live this American dream. And I always say it's not equality of income that I want people to have. It's equality of people being able to pursue what they love within
Yes.
their definition of
Yes.
success.
Yes.
And
It's the opportunities.
absolutely. And that's what I want in this great country of ours, to keep entrepreneurs, business owners, husbands, wives, black, white, Spanish, English, whatever, all of us to have the opportunity. Because I will say it and I'll say it again. It's not, embrace the diversity, but let's work towards unity.
Yeah.
And that's what I see that you do, because you help people with their financial struggles, and you give them a mirror to look into themselves to grow. And I really do love that about you. And you help people train themselves so they have a brand new financial IQ. And a lot of it truly has to do with their self, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So I don't know if you want me to do a little shameless plug here, so to speak, but you are actually one of my students in Rapid Tax Savings Formula.
Yes.
And the very first class that we talked about, right, was all about the profit mindset. And ironically enough, it boils down to loving oneself. It boils down to really accepting yourself, which is when I contributed to your book, which is why I wrote my quote that I live by, right? That when we accept ourselves in all of its glory and not so glorious moments, right? There are no words and there's no actions that can stop us then from fulfilling our life's purpose. And you see that. I teach that because you're right. Taxes, money, all of that is this weird, fucked up, this really crazy,
Right.
shame thing that, as I talk about in my class, that it really starts from inception. And it's just constant bombardment, right? And of course, I talk about how we can overcome that, right? That whole bombardment of this negativity that just constant. And it's interesting because I'm looking at my soul right now. I'm looking at your soul right now. And I'm so excited that our souls got together here and are able to share this amazing moment.
Yeah. And I say it so much because I do believe that there is a certain amount of intended fear, because I always say competition creates greatness, and collaborations is where we can share in our greatness. And we need to have both. But in the financial industry, and believe me, I worked for Linsco Private Ledger. I mean, I don't know if you know that or not. I used to work in their server farms. I used to work as a trader. I helped develop a lot of what they see in the early days to help the broker dealers come into this whole new web world. And it wasn't an industry about personal growth. It wasn't an industry about doing something more. It was really an industry of the fear of losing out. If you don't do this with me, you will never have what you can be. And I feel like that's not necessarily the message that we need to have. Don't make people fear their finances or their success or who they are, what level of life they come from. Let's celebrate where they've been and let's help them get to where they want to be. And that's what I see that you do. You express it in such a way that you don't create finance as a fear and you have all the answers. You create it as a tool to help people find their empowerment.
Yeah, because the truth is there's no secret, right, to what I'm talking about here, right? So the truth is that everybody who's here in the United States and in any ways can go read Title 26 of the United States Tax Code, right, or the United States Code. And that's where they'll find all the laws related to tax, right? They can go read over 800 tax forms and publications from the Internal Revenue Service if they want to go do that too. There's no secret here. There's none, right? It's just the reality that it's how we obtain that information, how we process it, how we comprehend it, and how we digest it. And what I love about it is absolutely, it's not about you have to use me. No, not at all. In fact, I don't want you to use me because unless I give you permission to, but I would love to be utilized, probably a better word. But my point is that you're absolutely right. It's about the reality that if we can just understand the basics, the foundation, just like in my book, The ABCs of Deductions, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Tax Write-Offs, right? It's the foundation so that we can begin to have more meaningful conversations. The reason why you're going to invest in a tax planner like myself isn't necessarily to get your taxes done, right? Although we can do that, but whatever, right? That's not why you hire us. You hire us because you have questions about your entity choice. You have questions about the things you can deduct. You have questions about saving money. You have questions about how to maximize your savings. You have questions about where am I spending money? Or better yet, you need somebody in your corner like myself who goes in there and goes, true story, by the way. I had a conversation with one of our clients and I said, here's the story, right? Here's the deal. This is why you have to put on your CEO hat. Because I said, based on the information I'm looking at, the numbers we've composed, you have 7 months before you're hanging up your bankruptcy proceedings. You have 7 months before you hit your going out of business sign. If you do not address the issues in your business, and in this case, they're hemorrhaging, right? So if they don't do anything, they will bleed to death. That's why people come and talk to us. They don't necessarily need to come to us to get their taxes done. It's something we do. But they're really coming because we're having a meaningful conversation that's happening every quarter, right? Every day if we can. The idea here is constant.
Yeah, and you're solving problems and you're calming emotions and you're bringing I would say, me and the glow stick, you're bringing a glow stick back into their lives. And you're right. And Clifford Starks and we talk about this quite a bit. And, one time he caught some words that I said, you have to have you have to have your heart set before you can work on your mindset. And then in the financial industry, what really most financial planners sell is just their skill set. And see, that's where I think that you differentiate how you look at finances and people and their relation. Because yes, do you have the skill set? Absolutely. You're an enrolled agent. You can battle the IRS. You can help, those 800 pages of code. But see, if you help your clients in the proper way, you're also helping them create a piece of legacy that they can leave, not just the financial part, but actually the knowledge and the heart of a whole new being if properly working with you, right?
That's exactly it. It is exactly right. To go all the way full circle, it's about changing the mindset around taxes, around finance. And it's interesting because a lot of my students, they because I've done this now 3 times, and they'll say, wait, all of this is just really about, I just got to change my mindset around it. Like, that's really what it boils down to. The technical stuff, of course, we teach you that, we'll give you that, right? But it's really the mindset. It's really believing that we are powerful CFOs, CEOs, regardless of our size, right? We think to ourselves, oh, I'm going to go start a business. And, and I'm intimidated by the Walmarts and the Amazons, right? And all that. And how are they doing all of paying no taxes, right? Practically, you know what I mean? Like, how are they getting away with that? Well, the truth is only in business is that the real equalizer, right? Like I heard you earlier talking about opportunity, right? Like when we first started this, taxes, ironically enough, when you are in business, is the great equalizer. The difference is when you should switch, when you should change, when you should shift the expenses and the income from one to the next, right? It's all strategy, but it's the great equalizer.
And I'm going to go even further. I'm going to even go deeper, because here's the thing. In Network Together, our fifth pillar is service to our youth. And what you do for adults is you say, look, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, if my dad taught me this and his dad taught him this, and this is how we act, and if it smells like a duck and walks like a duck, it's probably I have the same darn duck, and and to some they may call it Affleck. I don't know about that, but part of what you do is you are helping change the minds of adults so they can change the futures of their kids. That's where you have a heart set that's totally different. You are giving away like the secret sauce, so to speak, to really help families from generation to generation. It's just like my son said, Natalie's helping people, capture and keep the essence of their lives. You're helping pass on a certain amount of knowledge and passion for people to look at their finances so differently. And how did you come upon that? What was that, your background that just set that off? Did you watch someone? Did you go into a bathroom one day and you read it on the wall, change your kids' life financially?
No,
it really is amazing that you do that.
Yeah, you know what it is. It's when one comes to realize, in my case, right, when you realize that when you come from nothing at all, like nothing, and you're also born to be a teacher. That's also key here too, right? I wanted to be a teacher since I was like this big, and ultimately got my master's in education. But I digress. So when you come from nothing, you quickly realize the need that others have. This is like what you realize. I began to internalize this a lot. And then the teacher inside of me so badly wants to help others, right? So badly wants to share and be like, this is how you improve your life. Because here's the honest truth. We can improve upon the self. And we all know this is like big, big time, right? Like improve upon the self, work on the self, take yourself to the new next level. It's a very lonely place on the top if you're the only one that's improving. So instead, we improve not only ourselves, but if we improve everyone around us, together collectively, we rise up. And then we can have a big party, right? Like this is really about. So I've always been there. This is the thing I've always been about.
Yeah, and the book, The Art of the Connection, you are in this book. What was something that just resonated with the art of connection and having a quote or a page in that book? What was something that resonated with you to be in that?
Yeah, so this will be technically the third book that I'm involved with. The first one was another one, my own personal book, and now this book. So for me, The Art of Connection, again, it's a very lonely place. Look, I'm writing my second book right now called Sex and Taxes. And I'm actually I'm explaining the entities, which you're going to get a whole bunch of this in my class, which is going to be great, right? But I talk about the sense of like, if I'm just masturbating, like what fun is that after a while, right? Like I need something else. So it's very true in the sense, and business is the same way. If I'm only looking in the mirror and doing business with myself, yay, but we need lots of people. We need lots of relationships, right? So the art of connection is beyond the just buy my services, right? It's beyond the one night stand, right?
Yes.
There's a time and a day for a one night stand, but at the end of the day, every single one of us, we all want a long-term relationship. That's what we all want. And we want that in business too.
We do. And that's why, like, you and I have talked about this as well. That's why I said, business is not about winning, at least not for me. Business is about succeeding.
Yes.
Because when you win, there's only one. But when you succeed, everyone wins. And that's what I appreciate about you, is you see it the same way. You're here to you get absolutely. But you know what? You also still even give that much more. And that's what I really appreciate about you, Jonathan. You are just a rock star. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I mean, I think we're going to have to do a series of these. I mean, we got to keep getting the word out there. So let everyone know. I have your information scrolling across. Any other ways that you want people to know about how to get a hold of you?
Well, I mean, you're listening it right there. So I've got so I always tell people my very first child is my 16-year-old JB Financial. That's my 16-year-old, my tax and accounting business. And then I jokingly say that I had an unplanned pregnancy and gave birth to Naked Tax Talk, which is my show on YouTube. So youtube.com/Naked Tax Talk.
That's right.
And then, of course, my book, The ABCs of Deductions. And then my fourth company, which is just simply jonathanbengel.com. And that's really the coaching advisory level of services that people really are looking for. They don't know that, but they really are looking for that higher level type service versus the mundane work that typically gets done.
Right. Well, I appreciate you so much for being on this show today. You're a blessing into everyone's lives that are around you, as is Natalie and Donna, who's coming up next. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Again, I want to thank Jonathan for being on the show today. He really resonates with me because he came from struggles, family struggles, and he made himself, and he loves his mom. And I'm the same way. I love my mom. I appreciate everything that she did in my life. And, it's a blessing. And the best I can do is just pass on the legacy, not of just stuff, but of just great information and a great heart set that I'm helping others around me become greater. And that is my purpose in life too. I might not have been trained as an educator, but at least in the Marines, I was a prac private. So I guess I was doing some training at one time. Well, I'm really excited to have our next guest on the show. I mean, I lovingly call her Donna Meador, but I always say everything's better with Meador. And you're on our show today, Donna. How are you?
Oh, Robert, I'm doing great. And thank you so much for allowing me to come on the show with you. I just have so much respect for you and Sean and what you're doing.
Yeah, I think sometimes people think that Sean and I, we just go out there like the wizard and we just show up and things happen. And, quite frankly, I call it the tip of the iceberg. They get to see the 10%, of our glow. But believe me, it takes a lot of firewood to get us to that glow. There is a lot of work behind the scenes. Yeah. And it's really funny. If you really have a passion for what you do, you just do it. And when you have a passion for something, even like Jonathan was talking about mundane things, right? Even the mundane things, you can just do them that much better because you see and you feel the vision, the mission, and all that comes with it. And so I have you here today because we've talked about memorializing through gifts of legacy, certain attributes of legacy. And that's that emotion. It's that feeling. It's I've never met maybe lineage through my family tree, but I feel like I get to know them like watching a movie because of the senses get involved. And that's what I love about how she shares stories. Yeah. And then you have Jonathan, and here's someone, it's like, how do you put heart set and like finances in the same sentence? Oxymoron doesn't even do it justice. It's like military intelligence in my book. It just doesn't go. But somehow he took the Care Bear here, and then he took the IRS tax code, and all of a sudden you get it at home, and he puts it in a Valentine's box. I mean, go figure. Never seen it before. And you and I, Donna, we're back in this same space because I want you to talk a little bit about your background as well, because you weren't always a legal advocate, but I want everyone to know straight out, you also protect legacy, because within moments, if you don't have the proper people in your life, if you don't have the proper protection in your life, it can all go away. And
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't matter what your finances look like. It doesn't matter if you have everything stored on the disk. Someone can take it from you, and you have something, a gift that helps protect people 24/7, all year long. But tell us a little bit about your background, because I know, just like Natalie, you are not from Arizona. You came from somewhere else, because every time I hear that accent, I'm like, okay, where is she from?
Yeah, I grew up in New Jersey. I lived in Brooklyn for 25 years, met my late husband, moved to Long Island, and went after 2008. We were hopping and skipping, trying to figure out how not to live off credit cards. And so
Yeah.
we came west. We thought that at least we would cut our rent in half. We would cut everything. All the expenses would be less, which they were. And it was the best move for us. We came out here. This was a very new world to me, growing up in the city or being around it. And it took me about 9 months to get used to the culture, because it's way different than New York. It's a lot slower.
Sure.
But oh boy, do I love it. I love it out here. And it's just been quite a journey, Robert. As you know, yeah, you have to do a lot of behind the scenes stuff so people can see the shining stuff. But what happened was, when my husband passed away 4 years ago, I ended up going live every single day, spreading my heartfelt message of how to set your dial to joy in the midst of adversity. I didn't know why I was doing that. It wasn't like I said to myself, well, let's see, in 5 years from now, I'll be on a radio show with Robert Jones and iNETrepreneur. And, you don't think about that stuff, but you're following your heart. You're following your what's congruent for you. And it was and yes, I've been a Legal Shield associate for 10 years because I'm so in love with the mission. And I've just had to discover and help people to understand, just like Jonathan says, people don't come to me because they really think they want a lawyer. They come to me because they need help. It's like they're tired of being sort of taken over the coals. What's fair anymore? And now we've leveled the playing field, giving access to people across the country and in Canada to just ask the question, am I being treated fairly?
Well, and it really is. I mean, this is going to sound kind of terrible, but I'm just going to say it anyway. We have become such a consumer culture that we want it now, and that's it. You know what? If I want to go out and get myself a corn dog, I'm going to Wiener Schnitzel, and I'm going to have it right now. I am going to satisfy myself. Like Jonathan would call it, it's like, yeah, I'm going to go out and get that one night stand. We just think of like the temporal moment. That's how we're going to live. But the thing is that's why we need people in our lives to help us remember what life is about.
Yes.
And I look at it like this, in this way. No one wants to run out and say, boy, let me sign up for that legal plan. No one wants to run out and say, hey, Jonathan, here's my taxes, take a look at them. Because sometimes we're so embarrassed of what we've done before that keeps us from moving on.
Right.
And really, I know a lot of people, and instead of going out and getting help, it's like the guy or gal who doesn't understand they have a drinking problem. Everyone on earth knows that they got a drinking problem, but they're the ones that don't see it because they're embarrassed to go get that help. Legal is that way. Financial is that way. And Natalie has her own thing, right, with legacy, because sometimes, it's like when you're 10 or 12, you don't think you think you're going to live for another 2 billion years. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait a minute. I'm like 62. And all of a sudden, am I living my life? So as adults, we have to kind of be a part, like Jonathan does in his class, to help kind of bring that legacy with them forward so they aren't losing the most important moments of their lives. And, Donna, what I like about you in the same way is, you make legal sexy. You really do. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better Legal Shield advocate because, it's like, hey guys, I am here just to give you quality information. And if you come and you follow me, I am here for you. But, you do really put yourself out there, and tell us about all the ways you do put yourself out there to really save other people.
Thank you, Robert. I am actually a certified empowerment coach. And when I started to connect the dots, and especially after my husband passed away, I understood two of the most valuable lessons I learned after that experience and going through that was, number one, we do not walk alone. We are connected. I could never have gotten through that by myself. Not only family showing up and friends showing up to feed me, to walk me, to make sure I was out in the sun. My networking groups were there for me. They took I was down, okay? But interestingly enough, going through adversity is usually what gets us to pivot and go to an area that we wouldn't otherwise go. And so I was able to, as a Legal Shield associate, I will just share, and as a widow who almost got taken advantage of from an insurance claim that didn't pay out because of the fine print, the fact that I had access to an attorney, I didn't have to pay a retainer fee, I didn't have to think twice about who I was going to call, who also reviewed my contract and then wrote a letter for me, all for that small monthly fee, reaped me the benefits of over $13,000 that I would have never received. So as I'm going through the journey of that and putting together the dots of being an empowerment coach, I realized that my message of helping women specifically understand their value when they go out dating again later in life. And all of a sudden the dots all started connecting because I had somebody turn to me. And as you know, Robert, I'm a newlywed now. I'm remarried. I'm celebrating 1.5 years. But it dawned on me, somebody said to me, "Girl, how do you find love 2 times in a row?" And I went, "You're right." So I started to connect the dots of empowerment. And it comes together. It's not just the fact that I understood how to date and could tell within 4 dates whether I was on the same page with somebody or not. And I direct people back to my book, by the way, because I said it worked the first time with my incredible husband, Pietro. I went back to my book and I said, how did I do that? Because I'm going to do it again. And I did, right? And you know Jeffrey now. So it's like really an amazing journey. But then I started to realize how many people go through such legalities, the child support, the custody, the divorces,
parking ticket,
the will, huh?
Yep. It really, but you brought up something. I'm going to bring it back with networking and family. And what really blows me away sometimes is, the only person who feels alone is the person who feels alone, because it's them that's creating that loneliness. No one is alone. We are all connected. I tell you this, Donna, and Jonathan and Natalie at times probably could say the same thing. I'm like the most underutilized tool of all of Network Together. I mean, I feel like the Maytag repairman. No one ever calls me. I mean, they look at me and it's just like, I don't know what they think. Maybe I'm in a raft out in the middle of the ocean with my little volleyball with the face on it, like Tom Hanks. I don't know, but I'm like, I want to help people. We all want to help people, but the only person who cuts everything off is the person who cuts everything off. Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important as a community to show through our relationships, through our bonds, through even our love, that, no one's alone. In a way, we're all a family. Every one of us is connected in some way or another. And it really is our fiduciary duty in life to really help raise every boat with the tide.
Yeah,
and that's what I love. So one thing I like about you, Donna, is you get it. You found love twice. That gives a lot of people hope. Yeah. You went through a long a transition from coming from the coast out here, so you had to come over some adversity in there. I was thinking that you were going to say, yeah, sure, the rents were half as much, but then what we got paid was a quarter of that, so we actually lost out coming out here. So I was like ready for that. But tell us about how do you view Legal Shield and really people's legacy in your own words?
The coming out here, Boy, so many things you put right there. So you're right about all of that. We're the people who are alone are the people who choose to be, because we have so many resources and there's so many giving, loving people out there sharing information without looking for a penny in return. However, the reality of it is we need a penny to pay our rent. We need the money, right? We need it, we want it, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have it. And so I think I love the people that we connect with in Network Together and iNETrepreneur, because people are coming from a great place. They're passionate about what they're doing. I look at Jonathan, look at Natalie. We're passionate about what caused us to get here. And so Legal Shield, when I start to think about now, 10 years ago when I came on board, it was about the business. But as I've walked the journey and have opened up case after case and listened to stories and cried with people and said, do you think speaking to an attorney would better your outcome? It came to me to realize, or I came to realize, that I didn't want to any longer help the person who didn't want help. Does that sound?
Yeah.
That sounds a little funny, but I decided that I was going to start to educate and be there for the person who was looking for solutions. And that was key, because we have been trained, especially people yours and my age, okay, that said, well, you should never use an attorney unless you're in trouble with the law or you're wealthy. But what the rich never told you was the outcome is always better with an attorney. So now for $35 a month, we have access. And I always tell my members, if you think about something twice, just ask a question. I talk to bookkeepers and CPAs, remove liability. Let the lawyers I connect the dots all the time with my CPA and my lawyer. My LLC questions go to my CPA and my lawyer. And that's what Jonathan's trying to do. He's helping people educate, but sometimes there's another part of that facet. I like to say that I bring that to the table. And I have a lot of people who have lawyers on retainers, but then also layer this in because they said, well, I don't want to call them.
Yeah, you don't want to call them. It's like, what good is an insurance policy if you're afraid to use it? What good, is having something that you can never use, or you have fear of using? And many times that's that call to the attorney. Now, just kind of we're getting closer to the end of the show. The book, The Art of the Connection, and you and I, we get to have a lot of conversations, and I love the conversations. And I love it. Sometimes you call it, talking to the choir, because I believe in you and you believe in me, right. But still other people don't know why, your version of hey, I see this book, The Art of Connection, and it's 365 days of networking and inspirational quotes. Why did you want to become a part of this movement?
Well, first of all, it is a movement. I am an author, I think by birth. Have written a few books. I love it. But the chance and the opportunity that you and Sean gave us, Robert, first of all, the cost to be involved in a book that's in the Library of Congress, whoa, I'm like, holy mackerel. And I get to send my message. It's another piece of the pie. I get to keep adding the message. My husband and I jumped on board. We'll be in the next one. And so that's why, Robert, we are connected. We do not walk alone. And I was honored to be a part of that book.
Which really brings me to a certain point. And people ask me, what have I learned about myself, or what have I learned about others because of this book? And what it really boils down to is the people who've become a part of this book are really those people who see the world much bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest ones. And the other is the people that are in this book, and I include Jonathan and Natalie as well, we don't look at our businesses as transactions.
No.
We look at our business as relationships. We look at our businesses as all the wraparound services. We look at our business as not a business anymore. We look at our business as actually just a way to serve the community that's all around us.
Right.
And Donna, I believe you do that 125%, maybe 130. You're working on 137. I appreciate you being on the show. But before you go, just any other ways that we can get a hold of you as the banner scrolls across the screen? And
thank you, Robert. Social media. I've got a public profile. They can message me. There's always a way to find me. They can text me at the phone number. I'm around.
all right. Well, that's good. Put yourself out there. We like people who get around. Donna, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's always my pleasure to be able to interview and talk with you. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Robert. And thank you for your service, Robert.
Thank you. Well, I just want to thank again everyone who was able to come with me on this journey on this show today. A little bit about legacy, a little bit about the art of connection, and really just to profile these wonderful members of the iNETrepreneur Network. Each and one of them, I mean, I didn't know any of them at one time, but over time they're becoming just my go-tos, my friends, people that are in my life that are my family, my familia. And I really do say that with every intent and purpose, and when you find it, I've always said this, we as people, we go beyond just the biological connections. There's the thought connections, there's the emotional connections, and really there's the servitude connections. And that's the community that we're all a part of in the iNETrepreneur Network. Please, go to Amazon, look for the Art of Connection, 365 days of networking quotes. It's there, it provides support, it supplies information, it supplies hope. And that's what we are as entrepreneurs. We do it because there was a need or there was a necessity for it, or even both, and that's what makes us thrive. Thank you, everyone. We're here every Thursday from 2:30 to 3:30. Come to showtime so we can make it glow time. Thank you, everyone.
You've been watching the iNETrepreneur Show, a production of the iNETrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.